This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here today. And today's special guest on this episode is somebody I wanted to bring on. I met them out in Orlando at PodFest recently. She is an active realtor and real estate investor who's doing some amazing things in Florida. But I wanted her to come on and kind of shake it up a little bit. So many people, and I've seen this and so many out there feeling for, are struggling with issues, or struggling with maybe going a little stir crazy. Maybe you're like, they don't like the idea of having to go out and wear a mask everywhere, or have to stay 6 feet away, when a lot of people draw their energy from networking, hanging out, and just seeing people. I wanted to bring on somebody to talk a little about ways to kind of coping with that, ways to finding, peace in such a chaotic world. And so we're honored to have our friend Regena Ozeryansky, as she likes to say, was and still is a real estate investor and active realtor. And she has a passion for working with people to create transformation in people's lives and helping people find their passion, purpose, and inner peace. And she uses over 50 different techniques out there with her clients that she teaches with on how to create happy, healthy lives through wealth, specifically with real estate and asset allocation, and then also through health awareness with yoga, meditation, and spiritual practices. So we're honored to have our friend Regena join us today on the Note Closer Show. How's it going today, Regena?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. It's definitely been a fun journey, hasn't it, the last few months?
Yeah, I think everybody that was in Orlando is glad they went to Orlando now to attend PodFest, because so much other stuff has been canceled or delayed or pushed to the second half of the year. And it's been great networking with so many people, not only there, but also online. And you and I have shared resources back and forth and about some things in the last few weeks here. So let's talk a little bit. How do you get where you're at today? Talk a little about your journey to where you're at and how you dove in real estate investing and how it came to be helping people find internal peace now.
Yeah, I like to say that the journey has been sloppy and messy, and I'm so glad that I get to now teach and share, because I don't want anyone to have to go through what I have. And I'm so blessed and honored to have walked that path, and now I get to still live that, because the truth is life isn't always simple, right? Mm-hmm. We know what we're supposed to do. We say that everyone says, go get a great job and, go to school, get a good job, get married, have the kids, right? But the reality is there's a lot of people who've done that and they feel empty and they feel unfulfilled. And that's one of the reasons that I like your community and what you're up to, is that you've taken your skills and your resources and you've created a path of your own. And obviously now you're helping others do the same. And so I feel really blessed that I got to go through some of the messes that I have. And I like to say the messes turning into successes, because, it's not always a straight line. Life is, and success is not always a straight line. And so I think right now, with everything that we're going through as far as life and current situations and current events, more and more people are dealing with stress, and real stress, right? The kids are home, they're trying to study. Parents are trying to work. Even if you don't have children, I've heard, as I'm sure you have over the last few weeks, there's probably going to be more children and more divorces in the next few years because of this, right? So
I would agree to that totally out there. Not everybody does well working from home when they get to used to doing their own thing, own space, whether it's having the office space or people working from home and then having to combine. I don't say combine household, but combine working arrangements a lot of time, working and learning arrangements if you've got kids or other things out there too. So one of the things, and this is, we deal with stress in real estate from the minute you dive into it, finding clients or finding deals, getting things, closed. I always make the running joke that no real estate deal is ever closed without an issue popping up at some point, you know?
Right. 100%.
And right now with lending being in where it is and craziness, people don't know if they're going to lend, or people trying to close on houses, getting funds to come through, and rehab crews to get their job done in a time frame. Everything's got to be delayed on stuff, and it always happens. You try to get things in 30 to 45 days, but we all know that stuff goes awry. And these days it's even worse. So for those of our listeners out there that are listening to this podcast or watching the video or listening on our radio networks, what are kind of the things that you like to talk with people about, maybe initially on some things that they can do or to help kind of guide themselves? And then let's dive into maybe some practices that we can go through for our listeners. How's that sound?
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta thank real estate, because real estate is actually I would say probably one of the main reasons why I started doing the work I do, because I was so stressed all the time. And I felt like I couldn't get away from my phone. I couldn't get away from the computer. And even then, clients call, sellers are frustrated, buyers are upset. And I have a win-win policy, which is, we create as much as possible a win-win situation. But you're right, there's always something. And there were many times where I would lose it, because I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then the next day, a client would call, can you help me? And of course, it's like a drug, right? You keep coming back because it's very rewarding. And when it's done right, it's a blessing because everybody wins. So, one of the tools that I've found really helpful in my clients and students that I've shared with is reminding everybody that at the end of the day, there's only so much that we have control over. Right. And we all know, acts of God, it's not something we have anything control over. If a hurricane comes or an earthquake, that's not something that anyone can take care of as far as, sign here, right? It's not like that. So I think being realistic and being very compassionate to the people involved, and of course, knowing what's the game plan, right? Like, what's the vision of what do we want to create? So when I sit down with my clients, whether it be a real estate client or, coaching student, we have the same strategy, which is, what do you want to create? Where do you see yourself 6 months or 5 years or 10 years from now? And, working with the end in mind and creating a blueprint, as I call it, and helping people really map their way through. And then with a technique of, a multitude of techniques, I have a toolbox that I call my 50 step toolkit. And that's basically 50 different tools and techniques that we can reach, and we can kind of piece together a perfect package for each person, because it's not always going to be yoga or meditation or, taking a walk, exercise. Sometimes it's going to be a combination of all of it. And that's why I love having so many resources, because it gives people an opportunity to really dive into different strategies. So like sometimes I'll, refer flower essences. Other times I'll talk about oils, essential oils. And, one of the reasons I really appreciated when we met, I was pretty fired up that day. It was the first day of the conference, which, fast forward, right? If we had literally 2 weeks later, if that conference happened 2 weeks later, we never would have had it. And 2000, right. I think there was 2,000 or 2,500 people there. I mean, my life was definitely impacted. I'm sure yours was. And you're part of creating these events. So I'm sure what it takes on the back end to create this stuff, and the manpower and energy it takes to create it. So we're super fortunate. I feel really fortunate that we got to be there. And of course, meeting you was super fun. I stood up, made a total, risk-taking move. I stood up, raised my hand and said a couple words, and then you came over with your card, and it was really awesome.
Well, and that's the thing. You stood out. You had a great energy. I think it was actually the first day of VidFest. I think VidFest and PodFest together. And you got up and just shared some great things. Which it went off well. I was like, oh, I need to talk to that person. I like her energy, because everybody's sometimes so stoic and stuffy at an event. It's always nice to find somebody who's got some positive energy and is willing to embrace that. But I kind of want to bring it back to what you're talking about, how you sit down and talk with clients and what their plan is. Do you find it that those that have a plan struggle more or struggle less with stress and things? And maybe those that don't have a plan are the ones that struggle the most out there because they're kind of in a world of chaos and unknowing. What's your opinion on that?
That's a really good question. I think, it depends, because that saying, knowledge is power, right? It's not really anything. It's mute unless it's applied. So only applied knowledge is power. And so I think when people have a plan, and that's where coaching is so fabulous. And I was, for a long, long time, I didn't do coaching, right? I didn't have coaches because I didn't believe I was worth investing in. And later I understood what was blocking me was I thought I had a plan. I was taking baby steps towards my plan, and then something would rock my world. Like it could be anything. It could be I lost a contract, could be had an argument with a friend, could be relationship change, anything, everything, right? And so what I realized was coaching was so valuable because it kept me on track. And just like teachers, right? Teachers are so powerful because teachers give us, curriculum, and they say, okay, you can go home and you can study this. But if you have nobody to be accountable to and to say that you did your classwork, it's going to be very unlikely that person's going to actually accomplish what they want. So I think as far as having a plan, plans are great. And if you don't have anybody to hold you accountable to that plan, it's just writing on paper. It's pen to paper, and that's all it is. So I think, the key is really executing a plan and knowing that you have a cheerleading team. It could be a friend, doesn't even have to be a coach per se, but it needs to be someone that's going to hold you to the fire, because I don't know about you, Scott, but there's many days where I just don't feel like doing stuff, right? Like just rather put my head under the covers and just hide, but if I know that I'm held accountable to somebody, if I know that my students are waiting for me and need to talk, or a client is expecting something, like, yeah, we're going to discuss it, and I'm going to show up full ready, because I know that I'm here to serve.
Yeah, I think it's what separates a lot of people, especially looking back right now, as we're almost 5 months into 2020. People are like, can I get a restart? Can I hit that restart on my goals for the year or my New Year's resolutions? Because you said something, having a goal is great, but then also having an accountability partner, whether it's your spouse, loved ones, a friend, or a coach that you're working with to hold you accountable to. That's one of the I'm a big advocate of people writing down their goals and not having 20 million goals, but having 2 or 3 main ones that are the ones that you look at on a regular basis and set your mind to it. And I think right now, maybe some of the easiest goals for people that are struggling is just pick something that you're going to do when you get out of quarantine, something simple, or someplace that you want to go, a vacation, maybe not create a cruise line unless you really want to take, roll the dice in some places. But a lot of people, they're kind of like, okay, I have a goal, but I don't know how am I going to get there? There's so much uncertainty right now. And that's why, I want to bring you on. What are some things that once people have kind of a guide in place or have a plan in place, what are some simple things that they could, that you talk with them, you walk them through to identify maybe which 50 tools are going to be the best to help them find success?
Yeah, I think, one of the things, and you said something that really stood out for me, which was after quarantine, right? Like, I know one of the things that I've been hearing a lot of from students right now and clients is even now they're stressed because they're feeling like cabin fever. They're feeling tired. They're almost like losing, I don't want to say it's almost like the momentum and the motivation is a little bit like dwindling. Mm-hmm. And so it's all mindset. Right? I really feel it's all mindset. And it's even right now, it's important to create, like you said, a few little goals a day. Like if your goal for the day is to make 10 calls, that should be the goal always, right? For entrepreneurs is, make your calls and reach out to people and, lead gen, especially for investors, right? You're only as good as your last deal, right? So it's really important, but also having these little goals. So it could be a personal goal, a business goal, and a spiritual goal, right? So for the day, your goal could be make 10 calls business. Personal goal is go for a walk with family. And then spiritual goals is write in your journal for 10 minutes, right? And there's 3 simple tools that you could do just like that. And it's not overwhelming, right? I don't think any of your listeners, any of your audience right now thinks, those 3 tips, those are pretty simple. And then once you hit those goals, then you set another, benchmark. Okay, today I'm going to make 20 calls, and then I'm going to go for double the walk. Maybe, if you can, right? Because of the time difference. So I think it's really bite-sized pieces. It's bringing everything down. And I have what I call a 3-step process for internal peace, which is really what's important right now, is helping people find this internal peace. So the first is choose. And I love this one because it's so simple, and yet sometimes it's really hard, right? We run around in this circle of sometimes repeating the same things, expecting different results, right? So the analogy that I like, it's really simple. And so if you're right now, not as much, but let's say you're in your car and someone flips you the bird, right? The first instinct is, oh, what a jerk.
Yeah, you're number one back at you, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You're number one. Exactly. So the first instinct is, okay, I'm going to get upset. And then in that moment, a person has the choice to continue staying upset, or they can shift into joy, and they can say, you know what? Thanks, buddy. I'm going to let you go in front of me, and let it go. Literally, like in that instance. I mean, don't get me wrong. You could hold on to it for 20 minutes or 2 hours. And I've been guilty of doing it too. There's been times where I stayed, onto that for hours, like 5 hours later. I can't believe that guy cut me off this morning, but I was the one that was like my peace was stolen. Every time I let that happen, it's our own peace that gets taken away from us. And the only person suffering is us, right? The guy who cut you off, he doesn't care. He's gone. He's off cutting someone else off. He doesn't care. So the first step is choose, right? So if you're listening to this now and, you're dealing with your kids, or, your boss, called another meeting and you've been on for 7 hours already and you're exhausted. And, the first step is to choose. The second is to let go of whatever it is that you're holding on to. So in that situation, you choose and you let go of whatever it is, getting upset that you're late, or let go of the fact that he did it or she did it, right? Just choose that it's not a big deal and move on. And I understand with bigger situations, we're dealing about life, right? Like right now, COVID's a big deal. So, there's a lot of people that are thriving right now, doing really, really well. And I'm sure you're one of them. I'm succeeding in, ways that I'm pinching myself every day, because I'm like, oh my God, we're probably busier now than we were months ago, right? Because we're making good use of the time. And so it's choosing to shift the way we look at things. And so the second step is letting go of whatever isn't working. So if it's an old relationship, or it's an old way of thinking, or if it's a job that you're just stuck and you don't know how to make a change, like speak to someone and get yourself out of that job into something that's more fulfilling, right? And of course it's baby steps, right? I'm not saying, quit your job today if that's all you have. But it's important, I feel, to live a life that you are happy with. And then the third step is being present and really acknowledging what's working in my life right now. I have food, I have water, right? We have fresh air. I mean,
unless you're in New Jersey, New Jersey.
Unless you're in New Jersey. Sorry, Joe, if he's listening.
But let's go back a little bit to the letting go. Step 2, as you talk about, because we've all had days where one little thing in the morning sets us all off, and it just seems like a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
Bad thing happened, bad things, and then 30 seconds turns into 30 minutes, which turns into 3 hours, which turns into 6 hours as we just have a rough day.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools that you've developed, or any snap, things that you say, programming to help you to just, in the words of Frozen 2, let it go, or that's Frozen 1, I guess is the word, right?
Yeah. And, and it is, I hate to make it cliche, but it is very easy It's so easy to let go. It's just us that holds on. And that is such a great metaphor, Scott. That song is such a perfect metaphor. If you need to find a song to get yourself to let go of something, that's perfect, because it just repeats. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Like, and it's so beautiful, right? It's such a
Well,
playful song.
unless you're a father who's heard it for the 30th time over the last month, it may not be quite beautiful. It may be like, fingernails going down a chalkboard might be more therapeutic than that at some point,
Absolutely. And you're probably right. I forgot about that part. But yeah, I mean, one technique that I love teaching is breath, right? Because breath is something, it's so funny because, I mean, it's funny and it's not funny. It's included. Like, I catch myself sometimes, and I teach this stuff. I catch myself sometimes and I'm like, oh my God, like, take a breath, Regena. Like, it's so easy not to breathe. Like, we hold on, especially with stress, right? We hold
Mm-hmm.
on. Even like you said, the vision I see of the chalkboard, and I just grabbed my desk, because it's like, it's something with humans, and like the tangibility of feeling safe. We want to grab onto something. We want to grab onto physical stuff, our cars, our homes, people, right? That's why when we failing forward hurts so much, because
Mm-hmm.
we're letting go of whatever was not necessarily to go with us. Like, if we're evolving and we're growing, we change, right? And so, the analogy that I love to think of is like a butterfly. Butterflies are they're worms at
Mm-hmm.
first. They're caterpillars, and they're on the ground, for God's sake. Like, they're like, can't get deeper than that. They're like in
Right.
the ground, in the soil, and they are like, if you look at animals, I love the animal kingdom, because they don't worry about like, well, am I doing this right? Am I breathing right? Am I succeeding right? Am I doing okay in my business? Like, they just show up. And the more that we can just be present, it's really powerful. And I know that's not always easy when, you're
Mm-hmm.
not sure how you're going to pay your bills, or you don't know where the next deal is coming from. Like, I get it, and I also know that that's robbing us of our purpose, and that's robbing of us of our peace. And so breathing is really important, and it's very simple actually, but there's also some very intricate breathing techniques that I teach people. Um, like, I love the simple one, which is breathing in for a count of 3 or 4, and then holding it, and then exhale for a count of 4.
That exhale is just as key as the inhale, though. Getting that out and getting that stored oxygen in your lungs, and then in breathing in fresh stuff. Because a lot of people are very shallow breathers, though, too.
Yeah.
And you're a shallow breather, you're probably a little bit more likely to hyperventilate as you get stressed and everything gets a little tighter on you. And one of the biggest things that my personal trainer taught me and banged in my head was, look, you got to learn to breathe right. If you learn how to breathe right, you're putting the good oxygen into the engine. It's going to allow you to get in a rhythm of breathing and then doing sets on a proper basis. So you're not taxing the system and running out of air as you're trying to do more reps. And same thing happens in business, happens in life, is you take a breath, deep breath before you challenge in some things.
Yep.
It's one of the big things I like doing in the mornings when I get up is taking some deep breaths, centering myself. Okay, where am I going today? What are the challenges that are coming across my plate that I have to focus on? And then in figuring out, okay, what's the most important thing that I have to do, and go from there. And then a lot of people, like you've said before, hey, they're like, where am I? How am I going to pay the bills? What am I going to do? And it's kind of that, just saying that will stress you out a little bit,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so and they may not have an answer always, may
Yep.
not have an answer for 6 months from now. What are some things that you would recommend people are doing to try to find answers in a stressful time for that?
That's key, is finding solutions. And I think the biggest one, and one of the easiest ones, but it's the most profound, is gratitude.
Mm.
And I love having, I have a gratitude journal. And what I do is every time I can, sometimes twice a day in the morning and at night, sometimes even in the middle of the day, I'll grab my gratitude journal and I'll write down 5 things that I'm grateful for in that moment. Like, there's been times where even with my family or my accountability partners, if I'm stressed, I'll just send them a note and I'll say, these are the 5 things I'm grateful for right now. And the first few times it was weird because they were like, why am I getting this? And I was like, because I'm about to blow someone's brains out. Like, I'm really upset and I don't know what to do. And this is what I need to do to shift my energy.
This is my call for help.
Right. Like, if 911 calls, if someone calls 911 on me, here's why.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like an SOS, like
yeah, right.
If you can catch yourself before those moments of stress, it's amazing. It's a miracle, really, is what it is. It's a miracle because you've shifted from boiling hot water to a cold shower. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's all it is. It's just a figment of our imagination. Like, fear is false evidence appearing real. Right now, if you're listening to this or you're watching, like, you are safe, right? There's no boogeyman coming to get you. Credit card companies are not knocking on the door. Most likely they're not, because I don't think they do that anyway, right? But you have a roof over your head, you have internet, or you have some technology that you're listening to this. So you're already above most people on the planet, right? And that in itself, like, be grateful. We have water, we have food, we have technology. I know the internet's sometimes slow right now, but for goodness sake, I mean, thank you, internet. Like, we got to give some props to Wi-Fi and internet because it's powerful what's happening, and even just simple things. Like, I really feel like we're so blessed right now that we have time to slow down a bit and really, like, let Mother Nature breathe and let ourselves breathe, because we've been on autopilot for many, many centuries, and this is unprecedented what's going on. I mean, I don't think any of us knew what our lives were going to look like 60 days ago. And I truly, truly, truly believe that more millionaires and billionaires are created in times like these than the other way around, because there's more opportunities now. And if a person who's listening to this right now, if you have any desire to do something to succeed, now is the time, because people need help, people need answers, and people are open. Yes, of course, there's things that we need to be careful of, my I think one of my mom was telling me yesterday, somebody called her about the SBA loan, saying that she didn't fill out something. I said, Mom, that's a scam. Nobody's going to call you. So you have to be careful, right, of these things, because there are people that are going to take advantage. And that's why I think community is so important, because we get to support each other and we get to help each other understand that we're not alone, and we have people in our network that can support and not just support, but help us thrive and succeed. Like, the podcast community. I mean, it's such a gem of a community to me, like the community of Podfest, and there's so many communities like it, whether it's a church group or it's, a temple or a congregation, like whatever, whatever community people are part of. If it's a book club, that's a community, like none of us are alone right now. We just need to be able to see the blessings, which is where I think gratitude journals are so powerful. And even if it's just 5 things a day, you just keep a little journal. I'm grateful for sunlight. I'm grateful that I get to work without pants, whatever, like, like, you don't have to worry about what to wear, it's all good.
Exactly. I just got to put a shirt on. I can wear my pajamas most days and get away with it, which is completely fine, which is it's a beautiful thing. And then, I love what you said. Being able to, the simple things that we sometimes take, our health, our animals, the house that we have, the food that we have on the table at night, the being able to go for a walk. There's some places in the world right now that they can't go for a walk at all. I got a friend who's in Puerto Rico is having difficulties there and really stressed out because he just couldn't go out for a walk in the neighborhood with a mask on. You know, and so I think that's the biggest thing is people, there are so many opportunities. There's opportunities in a good market. There's opportunities in a down market. So finding where you fit in there and how you pivot or how you tweak your things. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been laid off, looking for work, struggling right now. And if you're listening to this, everybody, you know, do like Regena said, take the time, take a deep breath, you know, reach out to those, you know, be grateful, journal, go for a walk and go from there. And now I know that you're a big fan of yoga is one thing that you love doing as well too for you. You can see if you're watching the video, the text yoga to 64600 as your call to action, stuff like that. Talk a little about how that's helped you deal with issues and things like that as well too for you, Regena.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I mean, yoga has been, I don't know what I would do without yoga. It's been, literally, it saved my life. And when I say that, I don't mean it lightly. Coaching and yoga saved my life. I've had two very heavy depressions, and one wasn't so long ago. It was actually around summertime last year. And I was just done. I was like cooked. I was like, I'm done. You know, I'm tired of this mousetrap called life, and I didn't know what to do anymore. And I was starting to just really lose my hope and lose my way. And what was so magical about that was it really made me go into what I call the dark night of the soul, where you really go deep into your demons and your wounds and you just excavate. And what was so cool was, you know, I leaned into coaching. I leaned into my yoga, which I'd been doing for, you know, over 10 years now. I've been a student of yoga, and I started teaching back in 2014, and I didn't expect to teach. I just liked it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to get certified just to like strengthen my own practice and learn a little bit more. And then I think it was my third week of class. I went to a yoga studio to take a class, and the owner was there. And she says to me, would you like to teach? And I was like, wow, okay. You know, and I ended up teaching, and it was such a blessing. And for the first few months, it was just for me. I was like teaching for my own healing. And then I realized like how it saved my life on so many occasions. And what you learn on the mat, as we call it, is just, it's the physical practice of yoga. But what you get off of the mat when you're actually out in real life is so powerful, because you, like, my goal, what I teach is I really do my very best to teach people tools that they can take and implement into their life, whether it's breath work, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's being a decent human being, right? And having compassion for people. Like judgment, it's one of judgment and guilt are like two of the kind of, I don't want to say bad because I don't like that word, but they're two of the least productive things we could do, is have guilt and shame and judgment. And yoga has really helped me to have compassion for myself, first and foremost, for other people, which then allows me to have compassion for the world and the planet. And I'm not saying that, you know, every day is perfect. Like, you know, I don't recycle every day. You know what I mean? Like, call me a bad yogi, you know? But it's not about that. It's about the consciousness that we show up as. And, you know, I love what yoga stands for. I love, yoga actually means yoke, to bring together, like yin and yang. So it's not about sitting in, you know, cross-legged position and meditating all day long. Although that's awesome and we do that, it's actually about taking those principles and those practices of mindfulness, meditation, and yoga and applying that into our life. So when you're working on a deal and the seller and the buyer are not getting along and you're like ready to rip your hair out, you don't, because you're like, you know what? I can do this. I have the tools for this, you know? And I do a lot of visualization with students and with clients, and I do it myself, because it's about having the vision to see the end goal. And so that's something that we do a lot of in yoga too.
That's good stuff. And I think visualization right now is a very big key for people to get beyond this trench of chaos. Visualizing what you're doing in 90 days or 120 days or in 12 months, taking the time to realize that we'll get all through this. Yes, it's a bit of a chaos, and we've all had traumatic things. We've all had ups and down swings in our lives, and sometimes you just got to go in and aerate the scar tissue to get it out so that healthy tissue can come back mentally to be able to move on in the right direction. And I love the fact that you talked about that, but also the fact that, hey, sometimes you just got to teach others a little bit to help you practice what you're preaching, to, slowing down what we're doing so that you're teaching somebody else the right way to do it helps you. And I've always said that I learn a lot from my listeners. I learn a lot from other investors out there that I've taught who come back in and share things with me and teach me things too. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a great tool to use to make my business more effective and my life more effective, along with them doing the same thing too. So I love what you're doing. What's the best way for people to reach out to you, Regena, to work with you, to talk with you, and find out more about what you're offering?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy I was here. So the best way is actually right on the screen. You can text me at 64600. And text me there at 64600. Text the word yoga. And right now I am offering free yoga Monday through Friday, 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on my Facebook and Instagram feed. And it's a great way to just plug in, move your body, get your meditation in for the day. And I'm super excited and honored that I get to do that. And I would love to share it with your audience and your listeners.
Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, check it out. 64600. Text the word yoga. It's not case specific, be upper capital or not, but yoga to 64600. If you're dealing with things, trust me, guys, take some time. Just if you can't sit in an Indian squat, still tune in, listen, breathe, center yourself is often a great way to deal with the external chaos to help you find the internal peace that's going on right now. So Regena, thanks for coming on the Note Close Show. We appreciate you having you here and sharing such great nuggets in your 3-step approach to finding internal peace.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thank you. All right, guys and gals, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Hopefully go out, take some action, breathe. Sometimes we just got to breathe, everybody. Life is going to be okay. And no matter what you're going through, hey, trust me, you can get through it. You can handle anything that's put on your table. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in front of you to begin with. So go out, take some action, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you all at the top. Bye.